We're building a DIY rear extension. And things are going to get tricky because we need to tape our old upstairs windows out, change the window heights and brick up the walls. I'm not enjoying this now. That's good from your house. And in this video, we're going to make one of the toughest decisions yet. We're going to destroy one of the finished rooms in our renovation. Check this out. And we're going to sit down and do a cost breakdown up to where we got so far, to see if I've really saved any money or if I might as well have just paid a builder. Before we start getting any blocks up, we need to get these things on the walls. These are wall starters and they're going to tie the two walls together. We're going to put these in the middle of the block and then we need to make sure they're plumb. I'll make sure I fix these to a brick and not a mortar joint, that way it'll be stronger. I really need a bigger hammer for these plugs. Just like that. Do the same for the outer skin as well, same process. Now we get so many questions about insulation and how we get away with a 100mm cavity. We must have had 100 comments in the first 3 episodes alone about this. So Aaron is going to tell us all about it.
So as most of you will know, building regulations changed. Cavity sizes went up to 150mm. That's for rock wool insulation. Now there's this product on the market. This is a PIR board designed obviously specifically for cavities, which is tongue and grooved. Now this was designed to get over them regulations, so you can still use a 100mm cavity without having to put insulation on the inside of your building by using this. So the only thing to bear in mind if you're using this insulation, this is non-forgiving. So this insulation is 90mm. These are the retaining clips that hold, these are going to clip onto the wall ties which hold it back to the blockwork. These are 10mm thick. So that is 100mm there. If you set your cavities at 100mm, you will probably struggle. So it's better off setting the cavities at 110mm. Give yourself a bit of wiggle room. So no more questions about insulation. Now you know. We're going to be using profiles to build our walls. We appreciate obviously a lot of you ain't going to have these, so we'll show you another way to do it without these. Now if you remember episode 1, we built some profiles just to tie our string line to. Well, it's kind of the same here. So if you are going to use bits of timber, obviously yours will be longer than this. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. What you want to do is you want to measure out, so in our instance, because we've got a 100mm cavity and we're going to give it an extra 10mm, we're going to mark 310mm there, if I can get my tape to stay. So we'll mark 310, and then all you're going to do is you're going to set one edge of your timber to that line and then just use like an F clamp or G clamp. Basically you're just going to clamp that to the wall, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to plumb the side of the timber that is on your line, and then you'll be able to pull your line off of that. Not very prepared, am I? So these are what we call corner blocks. You can just make a little wooden one of these if you don't have them. Pretty simple to make. And all that's going to do, it's going to sit on the timber like that, and obviously the line's going to come off of here. And you can see we've got a metal adjustable version of this with our lines attached. Right, we're set up. I'll get a mix ready now and we can start laying some blocks and start getting some walls up. Now for these internal blocks, we're going for a 6:1 mix. So you can see I'm adding plasticizer there. We've got a bit of water in the mixer already, then the sand and cement, and then what we do is we add more water until we get a nice creamy mix. This doesn't have to be a thick, heavy mix because those internal blocks, they're really light. We don't want a heavy mix on this, something nice and workable. You can see how nice and creamy that mix is there. Put our damp course in, just lay that on the overlap of the damp proof membrane. We'll roll that out and that sits under the block to give us that damp course. Right, we're ready to lay some blocks at last. I know what you're thinking. Let's get these walls up. Aaron's going to do the majority of the block work because how long you been a builder? Oh, you always catch me on this. A million years. You were a bricklayer how many years? I'm 36. I started when I was 18. 38 would have been 20 years, so 18, that's 17 years. Okay, so you can see why he's doing the block work and I'm not. 17 years. I'll labour, I will do some, and we'll show you how we do it, but I'll mostly labour and Aaron will start cracking on.
Now we show you how to lay blocks in episode 2 and what the basics of that process is. This is very, very similar, using the same techniques, and we're not going to show you every little bit of that because you're just going to end up getting bored of it. So we're going to time lapse this, show you these walls going up, and then we'll move on to the next steps in the process where things get a little bit more technical. So you can see how quick them internal blocks start to go up. All that time, money and effort that we spent getting out the ground, that's the long bit.
So with these wall starters, you literally just snap these pieces out and you just pop them in wherever you want them. Some wall starters come like this where they're attached. Some of them come where they're just loose in the bag. But yeah, and that just ties the two skins together.
Right, I'm not used to standing around watching other people work. I'm gonna have to do some. That'll slow you down now, Aaron. Now to create our window opening, we can't use blocks because the height would be wrong. So you can see here, we're using briquettes to brick up to the correct height for the window. And that concludes the inner skin of our block work. Now this newer tongue and groove stuff is a bit better than the old stuff actually, because the old stuff you have to tape all the joints because it has to be airtight. It's actually quite easy to install. So there is a little bit of faffing around to get the bottom one in. Once you got that in, it's pretty quick to get up the wall. Now I'll start at the corner because I can show you how the corner build-up works, because it has to interlock on that corner. What we need to do is we need to slide the insulation down over the wall ties, and we need to end up with the top of the insulation sitting at the top of our first course of blocks here. And you're not allowed to have the insulation dropped right down and sitting in the bottom of the cavity, because of course that can wick up damp from the bottom of the cavity. So you have to have a gap there. It can't just be sitting on the bottom. So we need to take a measurement, cut a bit off, which is 75mm in this case, and that'll finish us on that course of blocks there, because that is where we need that insulation to sit so that the wall ties and the retaining clips go on nice and easy and they do their job. So you can see I'm dummying up, marking and cutting a slot for each of those wall ties so I can push the board down into the cavity. Now these wall ties that I bent out of the way to get that bottom board in, they'll just push down, sit through the tongue like that, and then once we get the retaining clip on, they'll stay in place. So we overlap that corner, and what you'll see here is that I've half bonded that. So just like our blocks, our insulation needs to be half bonded. So what you'll see, once you've got that bottom row in, that's the one that takes the time. Now, they're quite easy to install as we work our way up the wall until we get to the window the other side where things are a little bit more technical. Now these retaining clips, they pop over our wall ties to hold the whole thing back to the block work. I'm going to stop at that height. What's going to happen next? We'll block up this exterior wall. I'm going to put this bit of insulation in as we start to move up. So we'll stop there. What we'll do is come around here and I'll show you how we go around this window here, because it'd be easy to assume that we'd cut this insulation tight around this window reveal in line with the block work. If we do that, we won't get our cavity closures in, and a cavity closure sits between the cavity. It's like a tray with insulation stuck to the back of it. They're 25mm thick, so I think I'll go about 27mm from the edge of the block, and then I'll just pop a plumb line all the way up that wall. Done that all the way around, now we can get our insulation in and cut it to that line. And it's important that we do that now, because if we get this wrong and try to do it later, we won't be able to get between the cavity to correct the issue. In a bit, once I got all this on, we're going to talk about how much I've spent right up to this point so far, and how much I think it would have cost had I have had to pay someone to come and do all of this with the labour. Of course, I'm very lucky. I've got Aaron, who's a good mate of mine, who comes and gives me a hand. It's always handy to have a friendly builder. You can't know everything. It's like that bricklaying. I'm no good at that, to be honest with you. That is something you'd have to do for a long time to get anywhere near as good as Aaron. It's a bit like plastering. You need to have the knack. Yes, I could do it. I'd be very slow, and I make it look difficult, to be honest. But that's the same with plastering, bricklaying, anything that you can't learn just by kind of seeing it on YouTube or giving it a go for the first time. Those are things that you have to kind of get the knack of, and they are of course the bits that you might have to pay someone to do. If you know a builder who can come brick it up for you, you might have to give him a couple of days work, and then there might be bits that you can do, and that's just kind of a little way that you can get it cheaper. You can do a DIY extension. If you can do all this sort of stuff yourself, then you're going to save loads of money. So we'll sit down in a bit and we'll have a look at how much I've spent and how much I've saved. So that's all the cavity insulation that we can do at this stage. We now need to get some more blocks on there, the internal skin and the external blocks as well, and then we can get more of that insulation in as we keep building up. So it's actually the heat wave as I'm filming this at the minute, and it's over 30 degrees. So I'm not going to work out here anymore today. I think I'll give it a couple of days till this heat wave's over, and then we'll carry on. Now, external block work, same as internal block work. You ain't going to sit through loads of this. I'll speed it up because it's going to get boring. Get these on, and then we can finally get on something a little bit more interesting. The time lapse helps. I'm definitely not that quick at laying blocks, but we are getting that wall up there. We then get the insulation in and get that as high as we can go for now, so we can get those blocks up to the top. Exterior block work's done for now. We can't go any higher than this because the next step is to get some scaffolding so that we can continue our way up, get the roof on and all that sort of stuff. But what you will notice is I've got a massive tower in there. So that tower is so that we can change this window right here, because we need to change the window heights to get the pitch on the new roof. And as a bonus, I built a swimming pool. Don't know if you can see that, but we've got about 4 inches of water in that extension. So I need to pump that lot out because it's really annoying. And then we need to get up there and get that window changed, the bathroom window and the other bedroom window over there. Now, big thanks to Speedy. If you're after hire equipment, Speedy Hire gave me this tower to get that window out. It's a lot safer than a ladder. I'll put a link to Speedy Hire in the description. They've been brilliant so far at supplying all the equipment for this huge project. One of you lucky winners is going to win this 23-piece monster Milwaukee bundle. This kit includes a lot of the power tools you might need to build an extension yourself, including a miter saw and stand, a Milwaukee pack out system to keep all your shiny new tools in, and 2 of the world's best nail guns. Now, tickets for this lot are just £1, and there's enough tools here to completely kit yourself out. So head to the link in the description, grab your tickets, and we'll see you on the live draw. Well, I've just drained the swimming pool. It's gone down from about 4 inches of water to an inch of water, but look what's just started again. And now we've got to go indoors, take the old glazing out of the first upstairs window and start to brick it up. And at this rate, we are going to get soaked, so we better get on with it. There's water on the lens. Right, these old windows, 1991 white gold specials. First job, get the beads out, deglaze them, and then we can get the unit out. I thought that'd be quicker to take this opener out than to deglaze it, and now I'm hanging on to it. Didn't think that through very well, did I? There you go. To me, to you. Now the old one's out, just got to get all the screws out of the frame, and you can guarantee the heads will be really rusty. Now, changing windows normally is a fairly simple job. It would take us a couple of hours to change a window like this, but it's not quite that simple for us, because to get the pitch on the roof, I've said this before, we need to raise this window and another one of the windows up 2 brick courses. That means we've got to adjust the inner skin of the wall and the outer skin of the wall. Bit of a pig to do, and it'll probably take a couple of days because we've got to let the mortar go off when we brick this up and all that kind of thing. So it's a little bit tricky. Fortunately, these screws are actually coming out quite nicely. Oh, there's a nest in there. To you guys, grab it, come on.
To me.
If you're not subscribed, at least grab it. Try it. Yep.
There you go. Pull it gently over that way, you'll help save the wall.
I'll stud work the inside anyway.
Oh yeah.
Just
course, yeah.
plasterboard to it.
Plasterboard, yeah.
There's no point blocking that bit up, is there?
Just pull that one that way, if you can.
Try and save the walls. Sort of worked.
Sort of worked.
Too much repairs to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a bit of OSB just to block off the inside for tonight because the rain is coming and, well, you can probably tell, this is the boys' bedroom. So I'm not going to be too popular if I don't get a bit of board in here. But what I want to do is get a bit of board behind this outer skin because I can then brick this up. So we've boarded this up temporarily. Hopefully burglars don't carry screwdrivers. And what we need to do now is to get 2 courses of brick up. Of course, this one is a full brick, this one is a half brick. And I've saved some old bricks, so all I need to do is get my cutter, cut this brick out, take that one out, and then put a whole brick in there so that we keep the brick pattern and the half bond joints. That's as deep as I can get. That's, it's all stuck on my face. Health and safety, my beat that bit. Right, that's as deep as I can get with a cutter. I'll have to just chain drill that bit, knock that out, and yeah, do that both sides, tidy it up, and we can get some new brickwork in. We've resorted to filming this on the phone because the camera's getting absolutely soaked. It would do because I'm about to do brickwork. I've put my line in on pins. You can see that's at the top of that first course I'm doing. I'm going to get this first course in, and then there's only 1 course above that, so it's not too bad at all. But it would have been a lot easier if it weren't pouring down with rain. This is becoming a bit of a nightmare. The rain's pouring down, the mortar is getting really far too wet to work with, but we're cracking on with it and we're just making it work. I'm not enjoying this now. To be honest with you, I am absolutely soaked, and yeah, I just had enough. This, to be honest with you, is when mistakes happen, guys. So if you're not enjoying it, go in, have a brew, start again another day, I think. But unfortunately, I ain't got that luxury. If this hasn't earned a subscribe, then I don't know what we'll have. So hit the subscribe button for me, and hit the like button, because that helps the video to get out there to more people, and then more people get to enjoy watching me absolutely soak through laying bricks. Right, point it up now, finish it off. Looks good from your house. Nah, it looks alright, to be fair. Finish this bit off, and then I'm going to get out of the rain for a bit, and then we've got 2 more windows to do. Brickwork's had a chance to go off. That is perfect, and you can see what I've done on the inside. I've just built this little stud wall to bring the windowsill height up. Now, there's not a lot of room to move up here. We've got all the tools up here, so it's going to be a hard one to film. So we've got our sill cut. Just going to pop these end caps in first, and then it's easier for this window to screw the sill to the bottom. Not that way around, but you get the point. Screw the sill to the bottom of the window, and then we can get it in all as one piece. White silicone next down the back of the sill before we screw it on, because that'll stop any water coming through the back of the window. Now we'll centre the sill onto the bottom of the window. Might just get the silicone all over your hands. It's always a fun bit. All right, little pilot hole. 50mm screw to screw the sill down to the window frame. Now that can't move. It's the easier way of doing it. If I'm doing doors, I do it the other way around. I level my sill and then I put the door on top of it. But for this, it's easier to put the windowsill onto the frame and just lift the whole thing in one go. That ain't a bad bit of brickwork. Let's get that window straight in the hole. Now, if my measurements are right, this frame should just fit in the hole with about 5mm either side, top and bottom. Perfect. So now what we're going to do, we're going to fix the window in. We've got to get packers around it, and what we need to do is work out where them fixings need to go. Now, the regulations are that we are 150mm from any corners and no more than 600mm apart. And you need a fixing where there's any rail in the window. So let's get some packers in, get it all nice and square, and then we'll fix it into the brickwork. So what we're doing is working out what packers actually fit between the frame and the brickwork. You don't want anything too thick that bows the window frame in, but of course too thin and it won't support the frame when we fix through the frame into the brickwork. 6mm pilot hole straight through the frame. We're going to make sure that we're catching the brick. We don't want to be drilling through into the mortar because the fixings, they won't hold. And we're using these frame and fixings. You don't have to have any plugs on these. Actually, chuck us the box. And then if anyone's copying along, these are the ones we're using. Screw fix, easy drive concrete screws. Make sure that packer stays in place. You can hear it kind of squeak. That's when you know it's biting its way into the brick. And that's it. That's all you want to do, because you don't want to distort the frame. Like I said, because this packer fits perfectly, if we go pulling it too hard, we would distort the frame. We just want enough to bite onto that packer. Right, time to get the window in, and we've got this label here. This is the outside. Popped a couple of red spacers on there to sit it onto, because we need to get it nice and central to this black seal here. You don't want to see any of the edge of the pane. So we're going to lift that in, and the eagle-eyed of you will probably notice that we've swapped them red packers to blue ones. They're a little bit thinner and they fit the window a little bit better. So, trick to glazing windows. You got your top one and you got your side one, or top and bottom, and the two sides. The two sides in this case are shorter. You want to be putting the shorter ones in first, because the longer ones, they bow a lot easier and they're easier to manipulate in. Make sure the seals are nice and clean, and then if there's any grit or anything on there, it's not going to end up cracking or scratching the window. And then you want a nylon mallet, don't go using a metal hammer, and some soapy water or window cleaner. Right, soapy water. This is probably going to be quite hard to see on the camera, because as you can tell, the light being that side means it's going to be hard for you to see. But I've popped some soapy water on there. That'll allow the trims to slide in nicely. Now, what we're going to do, you'll see there's a little indentation on the trim there. That just pops into the corner there. You just hold it with one hand. Once they're started and you're away, things are pretty easy. You can just chase it down, and you just hit in at a slight angle. So the bottoms and tops are always a little trickier. There is a little technique to them. So just like before, a bit of soapy water, same on the trim. And then what you have to do, if you come in, Chris, you have to get the corner in, whether that's focusing, yeah, it is. So we'll get the corner in, just so it's started, like that. And then, if you watch this side, as I bow this, can they see that bowing? As I bow this up with that side slightly in, get this corner in, come in again. So it's like that, so you can see it's held in. We'll hit this one in. So you can see now we've got a gap there, we've got a gap there, and that's bowed up there. First, as I push this, they close, look, because it's all slipping in place. So now all the gaps are closed up, so come in, and then we can chase this. All the way along, and it's now going to make that scary crack. There you go. Always sounds like you've broken the glass. But that is it. That is the knack to doing it. And you can see, if you do it that way, it makes it nice and easy. So you can see from the hinge side here, we need to create a brace from this bottom corner up to this top corner to stop that top corner from sagging down. The glass will stop it, because of course we can't have a wooden brace across like we do on a gate. But the glass acts as that brace. But what we need to do is put some packers in the right places to support that piece of glass, so that it can take the weight of the frame. They're not particularly heavy, but the glass will be sufficient to take that bit of weight. So it's a little trickier. Let me show you where the packers go and how I do it. And basically, once this window opens and closes without snagging at all with the weight of the glass, you know you're there. So what you need to do to toe and heel, you'd have one packer on that side there, on the upright, and then one at the bottom. So you create a corner to support the piece of glass. Now what you'll find is, as you do this, they all just move around. So little trick, use some silicone, you'll be able to stick them in place. Then they can't move around. What I've got here, which makes it a little easier, is a corner piece. I'm still going to stick them, but they allow you to shape the corner a little bit easier. So there's a corner packer. So I'll stick that in, and then we'll dry run the window. We'll see if it fits without a gap between the piece of glass and the frame. Once it fits, we should be somewhere there. So we've got the size packers in, bottom corner and top corner that we think are going to fit. Chris is going to lift that one in. Sometimes you'll find as you do this, you can only get one corner in, and then you might have to adjust the size of packers. But let's see if this goes in first time. Yeah?
We're in.
Well, that wasn't a bad guess. Now you want to look at the pane around the side, and just like we did on the fixed pane, make sure you're behind all the seals and that it looks central and that it's not dropping down along this edge furthest away from the hinge. Once you think it's somewhere near in a square, what we'll do is Chris will hold that bit of glass and we'll try the window. Don't let that go. It's got a long way to fall. But that is perfect. Opens and closes nicely. Now we can get the beads in just like we did before. And that's one in. We've got two more. The bathroom one, we don't have to raise the height. Luckily, because I've already done the bathroom, we haven't got to go 2 courses up because it's already 2 courses higher. So we just got to change the window on that one for a nicer window. And then the other bedroom, we've got to do exactly the same thing. So I'm not going to show you a repeat. It's totally pointless. You get how to do it now. We're just going to finish this window off on the outside, seal it up, and then the scaffolding's arriving. Check this out. I've already had to take this ridge tile off. We had a massive wasp's nest in here. I think most of them are gone. If they haven't, we're going to end up getting stung on our bums as we change this window. There's a few still knocking around, but this was a huge wasp's nest. Luckily this roof's coming off anyway, so I just smashed a hole in it. Right, those health and safety viewers that shouted at me for standing on the digger bucket are going to love this. It's a diving board for the pool.
Exactly.
So the packers have been cut off around the frame. Now I'm just going to foam around the edge of the frame all the way around before we seal it up. That'll just help to insulate and stop any drafts. Hopefully you picked up a thing or two from me changing these windows. Windows are not hard to change. You just need to know some of the best practices and regulations, and the more that you do of them, you do get better at them. And they're definitely a DIY job, especially if you're having your work signed off by building control, because then you don't need to be fencer registered. That is all 3 windows upstairs installed. I've sealed around them with some frame and sealant, made sure I've sealed underneath the sills as well, and put quadrant round at the tops along the soffits, and they look perfect. It's actually tidied up the back of the property a treat, and we're going to do the rest of the windows in this house, but we had to do these 3 now for reasons I explained earlier. So they're done, and now that means we'll be able to move on to the roof when we're ready. But we're not completely done with windows yet, because we need to take out the giant and very heavy bay window at the back of the property, because that is in the way of our scaffolding. So those of you that have been watching the channel for a few years might remember that when we moved in here, we renovated this lounge and open plan dining area. Now this dining area is the other side of what you've seen throughout this extension series. This bay window's coming out. It's coming out today, sadly, and those doors are coming out. That's being knocked through, and the kitchen's being knocked through to make this area a new kitchen, and this area will be a dining room again. Now, when I did this room, I actually knew that this extension would take place. So all I did in here is we plastered the walls and put some spotlights in, some cheap laminate flooring. It is really cheap laminate flooring, and you can tell, but like I say, it cost me a couple £100 for this floor, and I knew this extension was going on and I didn't want to spend loads of money. But still, sadly, we're about to lose this space, which you can tell is being used for the family. We're going to have to board up this opening here to keep this separate for mess and for security, and we're going to have to take this bay window out. So it's a sad day, because we're going to lose a big part of the house for a few months, and we're going to make lots of mess of what was some pretty hard work. That is a bay window removed. So the window's out. Those of you that are enjoying the garden shed series at the minute, what I've decided to do is, because it keeps raining, we're going to build another new garden shed just in here in the lounge. Only joking. This is the division. So let me bring this camera up. We need to divide off. We took some of the floor up. We need to divide this off so that all the wind and rain and crap when we take this roof off doesn't go in the lounge, which we're not going to destroy. So the dining room is now wrecked, hole in the ceiling, windows out, curtains are off, and let's get this thing in place, OSB it, seal it up, and then the house is sort of divided off from all the mess for the next few months. We've actually done two bits of OSB, one on the inside, one on the outside, so two skins. That way, and look, if someone want to get in, they're going to get in. It's probably easier to smash a window than go through the OSB, but if someone was to unscrew this outer skin, then the other skin, of course, is screwed from the other way, so it makes it a little bit of a longer, trickier process. We'll do the same here, and then what we're going to do is silicone all the way around this to stop any water getting in there. So I just got home and look what's turned up, the scaffolding. Let's check this out. This is all brand new scaffolding actually. This scaffolding runs all the way around here so we can get the roof off in the next episode as well. And all the way around the side too. And we'll be able to go up higher with these walls, get the plates on, and start thinking about getting the new roof on. Now scaffolding's not cheap. I paid the guys £1,000 to put this scaffolding up, and I think that brings us to the bit you've all been waiting for, the cost breakdown so far. Now these numbers I've got here, they're not to the exact pound, because of course you go down to Screwfix, you grab little bits and bobs, and not everything gets completely totted up. But they are within, shall we say, the nearest £100. Now all the stuff that you saw in episode 2, so the concrete for the foundations, the block work to get us up to the damp course level, all the other block work that arrived on that delivery as well, the P shingle, the drainage, everything in episode 2 cost £1,800. Now the oversight material, which I believe was episode 3, so you've got the hardcore, you've got blind and sand, you've got mesh, you've got the concrete for the oversight. All that stuff came to £650. And then the materials you've seen in this episode to get us up to lintel height, just where the top of the windows are, that was £1,300. The 3 windows at the top of the property, they just cost me £800. And let's not forget the muck away, the big grabber that you saw in the last episode that came and took away all the soil from the foundations, that was £700. And the scaffolding that just went up, that was another £1,000. So that brings us in so far at £6,250, a bit more than a quarter of our total budget that we set aside for this rear extension. But I've saved a lot of money. Now I spoke to Aaron the builder, and he said to me that if he had himself or a labourer on this, or even his team, I'd have spent over double. So I'd have been at around £12,000 to £13,000 to be where we're at so far. So I think you can see doing a DIY extension is not easy, but it can save you a lot of money, even if you're able to do some of it yourself and get some friends in to help you along the way. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, hit one of these, make sure you're caught up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.